We definitely saw the most wildlife between Muncho Lake and Watson Lake. Every few miles there'd be a black bear, there'd be buffalo. There were constant buffalo between Muncho Lake and Watson Lake. A lot of black bears. Saw 5, 6 black bears, maybe more. Saw 20, 30 buffalo. When we pulled into the hotel at Watson Lake, I was a little concerned about all the bears we had seen, so I asked the person behind the counter if I needed to worry about my side cases, which had had food in them throughout the years. The person behind the counter just looked at me and said, "Sir, bears don't come to town." Okay, I feel stupid now. Thank you. Really enjoyed riding Alberta and the Yukon. The one thing that Sherry hated about it, they had metal grate bridges that just, the bottom is not pavement, it's a metal grate. And when you ride across it on a motorcycle, it moves you around pretty good and gives you a decent shaking, and she didn't care for it at all. They had some signs showing a motorcycle getting all squirrely, and she just really hated it. The last metal grate bridge we crossed was actually quite long, and it made her feel very uncomfortable. And once she got through it, as she saw bikes heading to the bridge, she'd just tell them to turn back. It was the bridge of death. She did fine, but she felt it was the bridge of death. Watson Lake is also the home of the Signpost Forest, which is basically at the end of the parking lot from our hotel. I had missed the sign getting into the Yukon the night before, so I grabbed Sherry's bike and rode down to that sign, took a picture, then rode over to the Signpost Forest. A buddy of mine from Ohio had told me he put a sign up several years ago and told me where to look for it. I looked around for a good 10 minutes and realized there's no way I'm going to find it, but it's an impressive sight. It was an impressive sight when I got to see it twice when we left town, and rode for about 5 minutes when I realized I didn't turn the key in, and so we had to turn around, ride past the Signpost Forest again to drop off the key, and then see it yet again as we left town. We made the short ride from Watson Lake to Whitehorse. We stopped at a McDonald's just to get a quick lunch, and we both realized we were wiped out and just tired. And we hadn't ridden very long that day, but we were just exhausted, so we decided to take a short day, find a hotel downtown Whitehorse. First thing we did is we unloaded the bikes and took a nap. And we got up and walked around the town. Heading to Dawson City, we decided to turn out and ride the Dempster a little bit. We didn't go very far. You could see the rain was coming in, and I really didn't want to deal with that in the rain, so we went down just a few miles. We can say we rode the Dempster, but we didn't really ride the Dempster. Interesting road, very dusty. Interesting, I mean, we didn't see much of it, but it was just a dusty road. Got into Dawson City, stayed at one of the hotels that is owned by a cruise line, and they actually fly their cruise passengers up to this big hotel. Very interesting place, nice place to be, and spent the night there. Next morning, leaving Dawson City, you get on the ferry and then you ride Top of the World Highway. Top of the World Highway, which is a dirt road from Dawson City to Alaska. It wasn't all that spectacular. It was nice. but it really reminded us both of the Blue Ridge Parkway, where you're just riding along the tops of these mountains. Actually, I think the Blue Ridge Parkway is probably a little bit nicer. We crossed into Alaska on the 4th of July. Really felt good to be back home in the USA, and doing it on the 4th of July just felt even better. The road between the border and Chicken was actually fun. It just seemed like a more fun road than Top of the World. I really enjoyed it and had to go off and play a little bit. While we were at Chicken having breakfast, the sky just opened up. It just was a downpour. Leaving Chicken, it was raining hard. There was lots of construction. The road was very sloppy, greasy, slippery, and Sherry was really feeling uncomfortable. I took one line and I told her real fast, "Don't follow me, whatever you do," because I was just sliding all over the place. And so I had to get out of the section I was in, and apparently I cut right in front of her, and I was going slow. I wasn't going all that fast, and I just heard her say, "You better get out of my way." So I did, and I took off. She slipped and slid around and really hated it, but we were on pavement shortly, and that was what she decided to call the Road of Doom. After riding all the way from Dawson City, I made a big mistake when we got to Fairbanks. I wanted to look up at Living Good just to see if maybe they had some cabins we could rent so we'd be that much closer to the Arctic Circle when we rode the Dalton tomorrow. So we rode past Fairbanks all the way up to Living Good. There was some loose ground up asphalt that really moved you around, and Sherry was very uncomfortable riding up to Living Good and didn't like that ride at all, and wasn't great when we got all the way up there and found out there was nothing. So we had to turn around and ride the 80 miles back to Fairbanks to find a hotel. Kind of put me in a foul mood. Sherry's in a good mood, but I was kind of cranky after that. We went back to the hotel, ordered a pizza, and just stayed in on 4th of July. That night, Sherry was a little concerned about riding out to the Arctic Circle. The material on the road that moved her around so much on the ride to Living Good kind of got in her head, and she was wondering if she should go up to the Arctic Circle. The Dalton has a reputation as being a tough road, and she wasn't sure if she should do it. I pulled up every picture I could possibly find on the internet showing her what the Dalton looked like, and after looking at those, she felt confident she could do it. The next morning, we headed out to hit the Arctic Circle. The Dalton, which we'd heard so much about, listened to podcasts about, read so much about, was the nicest, most beautiful dirt road we'd ever seen. And more than half of it, I think, was paved, but the dirt road sections were just wide and beautiful and wonderfully maintained. Just a great road. Had a nice ride out there, really enjoyed it. It was fun stopping at the Arctic Circle. We put the bikes in a V shape so we could get a picture of both the bikes that we'd ridden to the Arctic Circle. This was the goal of the trip. A husband and wife pulled in their Jeep and took one look at the bikes and said, "Could you move those so we could take a picture?" And I said, "Be happy to. Would you take a picture first?" And she was so accommodating. "Oh yes, absolutely." She'd be thrilled to take a picture for us. So we talked to them. They were from Texas. They'd driven up and just really enjoyed talking to them. Once again, meeting great people on the road. And we ate lunch there at the Arctic Circle parking lot and then headed back on the nicest dirt road we'd ever ridden. The Dalton, even though it was a long day, it was just a beautiful ride day out there, beautiful ride back. It just the part of the road between Living Good and Fairbanks that had very bothered Sherry the day before, she forgot all about it and just enjoyed the ride. It was a wonderful ride day. Really, really terrific.